This is the DJI Pocket 3, and it's one of my favorite cameras of all time. In fact, I think it will go down as a classic in the camera industry. But like all DJI products, this suffers from a bit of a political issue right now. And that's because which was once a $500 camera is now an $800 camera because of tariffs. And at $800, as much as I love this camera, I think there's other options out there on the marketplace, especially the used marketplace, that might be better alternatives and certainly get a bit more value out of your dollar. And now we're actually seeing President Trump escalate this trade war, and he's threatening a 100% tariff on all goods that are imported from China, which means now this $800 camera could go into the thousands. And if that wasn't bad enough, well, DJI is potentially facing a complete product ban. And that's because there is a bill in front of Congress that, if passed into law in December, well, it states that any DJI product with a radio on board is subject to this ban. And as we know, all of their camera lines, they have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth radios on them, which means DJI will not only be able to not sell drones in America, but they won't be able to sell any of their handhelds or action cameras either. But all is not lost if you are a DJI fanboy like myself or a fangirl. There seems to be a bit of a fox in the henhouse situation developing, with DJI using a loophole by setting up American-based shell companies and seemingly selling their technology through these companies. And by doing so, it's looking like they are avoiding tariffs and maybe setting up just kind of like a safety net in case they see a potential ban on all of their products. So this all started this summer. I caught an article on The Verge. It says DJI couldn't confirm or deny it disguised this drone to evade the US ban. Now there's a US company registered in Delaware called SkyRover. It kind of appeared overnight and had a really polished finished product. But people started to notice it looks exactly like the DJI Mini 4 Pro. I should know, I fly one. If you look at these, on the bottom is the Pro, on the top is the X1. Now there are some small cosmetic differences, but if you look into this further, stat for stat, sensor for sensor, function for function, these things are pretty much exact copies of each other from what most people can tell. Now this has perked up a lot of people's ears, and one of those people is Conrad IT. He, she, or they is tracking via FCC filings, all these shell companies that they suspect being just part of DJI. They say it best when they say these drones are made by a Chinese company, running software developed in China, with chips made in China, with firmware updates hosted on servers controlled by a Chinese company, with Chinese IP, and with a remote controller which uses a mobile application developed by said Chinese company, with heavy anti-reverse engineering ossification provided by a different, you guessed it, Chinese company. Now, for those of you who don't develop, basically what this means is they were trying to hide the code. They didn't do a really good job of it because this gentleman has gone through and found a lot of ties back either to China or to DJI. And in fact, he's saying all of these, now these are registered in different countries, but for instance, SkyRover registered here in America, he believes is directly connected to DJI in some way, just because the firmware and the software is so similar. We already talked about the hardware being very similar, at least with SkyRover. So if we go over to SkyRover, here's their website. One of the things I want you to look at actually is the design, not of the drone, even though that's very relevant because they're pretty much the same thing, especially if you fly the Mini Pro 4, but also the design of the website with things like the drop down. Just remember what this looks like, and then also remember this slide right here and what this looks like. Now fast forward a few months and DJI actually is being kind of accused again of kind of doing a shell company for its cameras for the same reasons. Now Xtra is the camera the camera company in question, and you can see here's their competitor to the Pocket 3. This is the Xtra Muse. Now the Xtra Muse, same story, same dimensions, everything else. Cosmetically it looks a little different, just like the X1 did to the Pro 4, the Mini 4 Pro, and everything else is the exact same. In fact, all the accessories that work for the original DJI also work for the Muse, with the exception of any of DJI's microphones do not yet work with the Xtra, but every other accessory fits nicely, from the battery to the case to everything. Now if we scroll down, it starts to get a bit more suspicious here because they had a lot of people tear this down. And when they teared it down, you can see this is basically the same schematic. Everything is laid out exactly where it's laid out in the Pocket 3. Now on the white background, this is the Pocket 3. On the blue background, this is the Muse. You can see here there is no difference. And in fact, when you go down to the chip level, well, guess what? There's no difference either. They're the same exact chips. And it goes a bit further. If you look at the UI here, the only thing they changed was these icons. It says the exact same words. These things, again, have the same specs, the same modes, They do the exact same things. And inside now we're learning, well, yeah, they also have the same internals. So now not only do we have a connection via the software and the firmware, we have a physical hardware connection as well. And it goes a little bit deeper as we scroll down in the article, because they start talking about where both of these companies being the drone company as well as Xtra, so SkyRover and Xtra, both registered in Delaware as American companies. Now, the thing about Delaware is you can use a company that specializes in helping people set up companies that becomes your registered agent. So according to public record, if anyone looks this up, you're going to see the address, not of the company or the company owners, you're going to see the address of the registered agent. So this is a way that companies can hide the ownership of their companies in the state of Delaware. And what's really weird is Xtra, plus what they've come to find out is SkyRover, as I mentioned, are using that same register agent. So now we have a bunch of different connection points here between these two companies, which I find interesting. But if we go over to Xtra's website, you'll see here's the Pocket 3. Again, same specs, same everything. It just doesn't work with the DJI mic, so it's 99% same. But lo and behold, they also have two other models, the Xtra Edge and the Xtra Edge Pro. Now I'll give you one guess. The Edge, well, if it is a clone, it would be a clone of the Action 4 because the specs are the exact same. Same thing with the Edge Pro. That's going to be a clone of the Action Pro 5. Exact same specs and everything else. So this is very interesting, but when you go to shop now, one of the most important things, especially about the Muse here, is it's $529. Now, to me, that's an interesting price because that's relatively what the prices were before we had these tariffs. So it is looking like the suspicion of them somehow getting around these tariffs. If it's the exact same hardware, somehow they're doing it and they're offering it at a lower price. Now, maybe they're just eating the tariffs to establish their name. Who knows? But this is supposedly an American company and they're getting around those tariffs. Now, one of the other things I noticed is, remember those drop downs I told you to remember? These look familiar to you? They certainly look familiar to me. If we take a look at SkyRover here, you can see here the drop downs, right? And remember when I said, look at this slide? Come down here. What do we see here? So this is SkyRover, Xtra. Now they changed the model, but SkyRover, Xtra, and some of the words, but SkyRover, Xtra. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. Now, if we go to the About on the Xtra website, this kind of stood out to me as well because this banner looks a lot like a DJI marketing campaign. We scroll down, this basically says we are founded with a team of industry professionals from leading innovative companies who have deep expertise in imaging, technology, and consumer electronics. Now, there's not a lot of those companies around, and seeing as well, your models here look pretty much and act pretty much exactly like DJI. If you did come from somewhere, well, I wonder where you came from. And the fact that it's so close to this website and the way it works, maybe they're using the same web developers, but it is interesting that they both have pretty much clones of an official DJI product. But hey, listen, the proof is in the pudding. They certainly cosmetically look alike, but what about the video that they produce? Well, unfortunately, I don't have these cameras, but I did find two great creators that I'll have linked down below. If you're interested in any of these devices, make sure you check out their videos. They do a great, thorough review with comparison videos. I'm just going to take a couple clips, very short clips, so that we can get an idea of how these things look stacked up side by side. The first one's going to compare the Muse to the Pocket 3. And then the next gentleman, he's going to compare the Action 5 Pro to the Xtra Edge Pro. And we can see if they visually look any different.
Between the image quality from these two cameras. Filming on these cameras side by side in 4K, I have turned on the active track, so if I move the cameras side to side, it should stay with me. The same on both, which I am seeing on the screen, it looks like it is. I'll also do an audio test on the Xtra Muse 1, 2, 3 and the DJI Pocket 3 1, 2, 3. Because these cameras have really big sensors, you can see how professional this video looks with a nice blurred out background. And when we go into low light, the video still looks really good.
A quick little audio test of it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, against the DJI Action 5 Pro. Two identical cameras. They're both set to 5800 Kelvin right now. And same field of view they're supposed to be. The question is, see, I saw a trumpet. Yep. See the trumpet on the Action 5 Pro right there. and a trumpet right there on this Xtra Edge Pro.
I don't know about you, but that looks exactly the same to me. And I have to be careful what I say here because I don't want to get in any legal trouble. But I will say this: if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck. This is a duck, boys. It has to be a duck. Look, duck or not, these things are oddly similar, and they might be getting around the tariffs. And it might provide a little bit of hope to all of us that like DJI products that we may be able to get them in the future through these shell companies. Now, will the United States step in and crack down on this, or will we peel back the layers and find another story that maybe this is just one of Trump's good buddies that's setting up these shell companies in order to siphon more money out of us and to illegally get around the tariffs? It kind of sounds on brand to me. Anyways, if you are looking for these, I can't say run out and get them. And that's only because just like them showing up overnight with all these products, they can disappear overnight as well. They don't have any type of sales history or any type of aftercare, after service, and support history that we can lean on. So if you are going to buy these devices, you're certainly taking a risk. But as a risk taker myself, to save over $200, yeah, I'd probably seriously consider these devices. And you're getting pretty much 99% of the same thing. Well, I think it might be a smart play. Anyways, if you found value in this, please like and subscribe. My name's Hill Phantom. I'll see you next time.